Hey, thanks for watching The Horror Show with Sean and Joel. Ain't no other place to go. I'm Roddy Piper.
Thanks.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Horror Show, the show that dissects, mutilates, dismembers, and butchers all of your favorite and not so favorite horror movies and other horror-related events. I'm Sean.
I'm Joe.
This week, Joe, we are going to be... This is a thing I thought of thanks to one of our listeners who sent me a message. She goes by the name Wendy Wend T. 93. She's on Tumblr. But the idea is Eli Roth and the examination of his career. And he's a producer, a director.
Actor.
An actor sometimes, yes. And just thinking about all of that and just examining it. And he's pretty high regarded, right? In the community, I would say so.
I feel like he is.
I feel like
he's actually kind of hit or miss for the community. Like some people love him and some people don't.
Oh, that's interesting.
Just judging by comments I've read online.
That's interesting. Yeah, I just kind of assumed because everything I see about him is super positive and
sure
all that. But I just feel when I started thinking about it, I kind of said, "Is he that good?" And I for the longest time I was like, Eli Roth's the best. And then when I sat down and looked at his IMDb, I was like, is he the best? Is he? I don't know. And we went and we looked through all of his movies, and we're gonna talk about that today. So, real quick, what were your thoughts? Kind of, what was the last Eli Roth movie you saw prior to this, to watching for the show?
Rock of Ages.
What? Did you produce that?
No, he starred in it.
Oh my god!
And hold on.
What was the first
starred is not. He was in it.
What was the first horror movie with Eli? Last horror movie you saw with Eli Roth?
The last one would be The Last Exorcism.
Oh, okay, yeah. You saw that in theaters, right?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know honestly. The last one I had seen was Clown, which was fairly recently before we did this show. And then The Sacrament we both watched too.
Oh yeah.
Which I didn't even know that was him until getting ready for this show. And then after that, it might have been Hostel in theaters.
Yeah, Hostel 2 would be the last one that I saw.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then I would have seen that. Yeah, I did see that. Okay, well that's interesting. So I mean, in both of our minds, it was kind of skewed. It'd been quite a while.
It had been a while.
Oh, by the way, we're drinking before we get any further, and it's delicious. We're drinking River Horse Chocolate Porter.
It is fucking delicious.
It's so good. Okay, so the movies. Let's just break it down first. So he directed Cabin Fever, Hostel,
which I can't believe that Hostel is 10 years old.
I know.
2005, dude.
I know.
I saw that shit in theaters. I can remember it yesterday.
I remember that pretty vividly also. Well, we both have some memories of seeing that live with our friends. And then Hostel Part 2. And then after that was the last movie he directed in 2007, except for the unreleased Green Inferno and Knock Knock, which is coming out.
And he did that segment in Grindhouse.
He produced 2001 Maniacs, The Last Exorcism Part 2. I'm not counting Aftershock as a horror movie because I think it's an action movie, which is weird. The Sacrament and Clown. So he's got a pretty diverse thing, except I just couldn't believe he hadn't directed a movie in so long. You see his name pop up so often.
Yeah.
Because they really peddle the movies he's producing.
And he had a big role in Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah.
Which kept
So he's
his
always
name
just
relevant.
around.
He's relevant.
He's always just around. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Cabin, let's start out with the movies. So I'm going to start out with what I kind of thought about when I started thinking about this after our listener had sent us the note. I was sitting there and I was thinking, I'm looking at these things. I don't like Cabin Fever. And in my brain, Hostel and Hostel 2 could barely really remember. Like I knew the scenes, the key scenes. But in my brain, I was kind of just like, those weren't that good either. Like they were just kind of gore porn. And I had that idea in my head. So in my head, I was like, the thing I wanted to talk about, is he a better producer or better director? And we'll get to that probably a little later. And then the other thing I was thinking about was, is he like, he's kind of like to do a sports analogy, he's kind of like a football quarterback. These NFL quarterbacks, there's probably only 10 amazing quarterbacks out of the 32 starting quarterbacks. There's probably 5 to 10 amazing quarterbacks. And then there's these ones in the middle that they win all the time and they're popular, but they're not that good. And they can't get it done. And I was kind of like, is that Eli Roth? Is he got this name that he's like almost reaching the top, but he just hasn't produced that one movie?
So you're saying he's the Tony Romo of the...
That's honestly what I was thinking about. As a Cowboys fan, I was kind of like, is he in that role where he's like, he's great at what he does, but he just hasn't done it yet. The one that really...
solidifies him in the Hall of Fame.
And not just as because I'm sure critics hated Hostel. We can talk about that in the second half. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure they weren't thrilled with it. But when is he going to do something like The Exorcist or the big one that has the acting chops and the fun and the blood and the boobs? And I just, that's kind of what I was thinking about. But after revisiting these, I think I've changed my own mind.
Yeah?
Yeah.
In a good way or
good?
Oh, good. Okay. All right.
So let's start out with Cabin Fever, where it all started.
Yes.
2002, Eli Roth.
2002.
I know. We're so old. I saw that in theaters
I did
also,
too.
and I was just as mad seeing it again. You like this movie?
Okay, so 2002, because I remember seeing it in college. So maybe it was released in like a festival in 2002,
You know what?
and it got a
Yeah.
wide release in 2003.
First of all, we need to get a petition going to regulate what they call a release date. Because you can't release a movie so like Green Inferno was technically released in 2014 because it was screened once.
Right.
In
But nobody's
2014.
seen it.
No one except that one audience saw it.
Yeah.
It wasn't released in 2014. I'm sorry. It is when it gets wide released.
Yeah, I agree with that.
If it's a limited release, it's not released.
Because I know for a fact I saw it in college.
Yeah.
Because I remember everybody talking about it.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, when I first saw it, I remember enjoying it, but not thinking, it wasn't a masterpiece. And now after watching it, I still feel the same way. Mm-hmm. It's not a masterpiece, but I enjoyed it.
I almost even... I guess the horror aspects just weren't there it was just so weird. It's like one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen.
It's so this is his like big break.
Yeah.
And to make a movie like that with like the stuff that's in it that's ballsy.
How did that even yeah, exactly. Like maybe 2002 was a different time, but the way these people talk to each other, the language they use is the most crude stuff I've ever heard in my life. There's one thing where a guy calls the squirrels gay. He's like, I'm going to go shoot squirrels. And they're like, why? And he's like, because they're gay.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the way real people talk, especially like a meathead like that character was. But then they're calling each other retard.
That's the dude from Detroit Rock City.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And they call each other retard constantly. They're dropping retard like... I've never heard.
Yeah, like they wouldn't fly today. You can't say that.
And even maybe once or twice it would fly, but especially when it's the meathead, like, okay, I get it. That's his character. But then one of the girls walking up is like, he's a retard. And I was like, oh no, like you're a protagonist. You're the good person. Like,
yeah.
You're saying that. Like I'm supposed to relate to you and like you.
Yeah.
And by the way, that guy Bert, the meathead, he's my hero. And by hero, I mean he's the worst. He's the worst person ever. But I loved him in this movie. I think he was my favorite.
His
character.
face, like just facial expressions.
I don't know what it is about his face. He's just so stupid looking. Oh my god! Everything about this movie was so weird, and it was such a trip back. Like, if you had asked me about any of this stuff prior to rewatching it, I'd have been like, I have no idea what you're talking. The cop that comes to the house, that weird kid with the like shitty mustache, and the weird
it's like someone
voice.
just rubbed a dirty butt all over his face.
Hey, party man, what is this? Like, why would it just doesn't even like if? How did that get released? How did this movie get released? People sat there and were like, "I get it.
Yeah,
This
and like
is gonna be a hit."
I was wondering if like it was supposed to be like an homage to like the cheesiness, but it's like it's not cheesy enough to be considered an homage. It's just weird.
No. And the other thing kind of in this, I just want to talk about some of the scenes because they cracked me up. Okay. The finger banging scene. I don't know any polite way to say that. Is there a word for it?
Nah, just finger blast.
Yeah. The Foley work in that with the noises was the most so when I watch movies, I usually have like surround sound headphones on. It was so painful to listen to. It was so disgusting. They made it so I couldn't even, we saw it in theaters, but it must have been so loud in theaters, just like oh man, it was fucking awful. It was awful. It was so gross. It drove me nuts when that happened. And that was, I don't know. So this is clearly, it is a horror movie, right?
Oh, yeah.
It just didn't really feel like one to me. It was just like missing some of these key elements. Like it was a virus. I don't know. Maybe because there was just no monsters or.
I don't know. I mean, a flesh-eating virus like the one that you have on your hand right now is pretty fucking terrifying. By the way, Sean literally has a flesh-eating virus or
it's
something.
Really weird. It's bad. And I don't know what it is. And we're just going to ignore it. It honestly kind of looks like cabin fever. It does. The gore in it was pretty great, though. And
that scene in the shed?
The shed scene was bad.
I mean, that's good. That was great.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Bad in that way. I feel like he did gore really effectively. The worst scene to me, best, is when the girl has it and it's on her legs and she's in the bath and she starts running the fucking razor over it. That's like one of the most painful things. Forget Hostile and shit. That makes me cringe more than
just
anything.
Slicing off your skin
rubbing
slowly.
a razor, and she just kept doing it. She could have stopped. That was the worst part. No one was doing it to her. She's shaving her legs, and this virus has, and it's like working fast.
It's deteriorating her entire leg.
And so her skin is peeling off, and she's running a razor over it.
I feel like she would notice that, like as soon as, not even using the razor, like as soon as you touch it.
She knew. I mean, she was looking at it, and she was like, like shaking while she's shaving it. Just stop. Do you really need your legs shaved that bad?
No one's making you do that.
It was crazy.
And the only reason women shave their legs is to look attractive. But when you have that shit all over
you should probably worry more about that.
Yeah, I mean,
you're not going to be showing your legs.
That's the least of your concern.
It was that scene. That scene was like nauseating.
That's actually probably my favorite scene in that movie.
It was 100% my favorite scene. And like honestly, I can barely handle shaving if I have an ingrown hair, like on my face. I want to cry if I rub a razor over that. Like, and this chick's just hacking it away. So I guess so. Besides that, I thought the ending of this was pretty. I thought that was the most horror-esque part, was when you realize this town is just like fuck these kids.
Yeah. It had like a Return of the Living Dead vibe to it.
Yeah, or even like almost like a Texas Chainsaw kind of feel, where it was like anywhere you turned, like someone was like, "Oh, you need a ride home? Yeah, I need a ride home. Okay," and then they bring you back to the fucking nightmare
that too. I was saying Return of the Living Dead as in, well, I don't want to spoil the ending of that, but that town's fucked and the government knows it.
Yeah.
That's what I meant by that.
And but the true ending to this, I mean, I'm not going to repeat the N-word on the show, but how do you get away with that?
So when
And
I
why is it
saw
even
that,
necessary?
when I
So unnecessary.
When I saw that in theaters, I remember like obviously half the theater was laughing, and I remember like thinking it was funny, but just sitting there like mouth agape and being like, did that really just happen?
Am I
like this is
I supposed to laugh at this?
This is a budgeted movie.
Yeah.
That ended like that.
We watched at a mainstream theater.
Where's
and that is at, Southington.
Oh, okay.
Like, like a main national theater.
I thought you were saying the name of it.
Oh, no, like a national theater chain. And they were playing this, so you don't expect to see that in it.
Like a silly nonsense ending.
And it added nothing to it. Yeah. And then it cracks you up even more because the first time he says it, you're like, that's weird. That's a weird thing to include. And then at the end when he's actually selling them guns. Good. Oh my god. And
which had nothing to do with the story. And like we just talked about 2 seconds ago, that town is fucked.
Yeah.
Why is this happening?
And then everyone's just playing bluegrass and drinking.
Why are they not leaving? Why?
It's so weird. It's so weird. Overall, though, still didn't like it. I don't understand the appeal to it. It is not my jam.
Okay.
And I apologize to Do Not Sit Next to Dennis, one of our fans. Clearly, you love this movie. I'm so sorry. I don't. And I don't like Dennis.
It's hard to say that. I'm not sure how to word this. If somebody asked me to recommend them a horror movie, that probably wouldn't be in the top 100 movies that I recommend them. But if somebody was like, hey, I'm putting on Cabin Fever, I wouldn't be like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. I'd have no problem sitting and watching it.
Oh my gosh, I would. I would say, please turn this off.
Why?
Because I cannot stand it.
You dislike it that much?
I would say, can you fast forward to the leg shaving scene and
really
turn it off? Yeah.
I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it.
I didn't think there was enough going on. I don't know. And Ryder's strong. Come on. But now, let's move on. Let's start talking about what I'm so super pumped to talk about. Hostel.
Well, then I'm going to hold you up for a second.
Sure.
Would you rather watch Willow Creek or Cabin Fever?
I mean, that's like...
Come on. They're not even in the same fucking ballpark.
I guess you're right. I guess I would rather watch Cabin Fever. It's just, I don't really think of it as a horror movie, really.
Okay, but be that as it may.
I think of it as just a weird movie. Like, it's just bizarre.
Whatever. Willow Creek sucks.
No, Willow Creek is like the drizzling shits. It's awful. It's so garbage. I'm kidding when I say that because I'm kidding that I would even pretend that I wouldn't watch Cabin Fever over Willow Creek. I would watch The Grass Grow over Willow Creek because it's essentially what you're watching in Willow Creek. I'd rather just sit in a tent by myself, whispering, and watch Willow Creek. And honestly, Joe, I'd rather sit in a tent with you and whisper unaudibly for neither of us know what we're saying to each other for 30 minutes than watch Willow Creek.
I would agree.
We just sit there. Maybe we should just do that one episode. We'll just sit in a tent and be like, did you hear that? What's that? No, shh, shh, shh. Oh my god.
That was a great idea. Our 1 year anniversary podcast should be
from a tent.
From a tent in the woods.
Let's go to Willow Creek and do it. No, I don't. I'd actually be scared at that point of a fat woman. Fat naked woman. Spoiler alert, Willow Creek sucks. It doesn't matter. Dude, I still get furious. Okay, so IMDb, I'll go on there and I'll be like top 100 horror movies just to try and catch up, see if there's stuff I haven't seen. And it's automated. So let's say a movie comes out tomorrow and everyone ranks at 100%. It gets put on that list, regardless.
Right.
Willow Creek is on there. And that infuriates me to no end.
The top 100.
Not only that, Willow Creek is in like the top 100 movies because it's rated so high. That's fucking shameful.
If you guys can see Sean's face right now.
That's fucking shameful. That is fucking shameful. Shame on you, Rotten Tomatoes. Go fuck yourself. Regulate these critics. This is bullshit.
By the way, Cabin Fever had a 63% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Fair enough. That's a failing grade.
No.
Well, was it passing?
That's fresh.
I failed math.
That's fresh.
Good stuff. But let's talk Hostel.
Yes.
Another movie, like I said. And this isn't because I didn't like it at the time. I honestly didn't remember how I felt at the time. So looking back, I was like, I think it's just gore porn. I don't think there's anything substantial here. Joe.
So I remember, unlike you, I remember going into the theaters. I think I went with a group of like 8 people. And I remember exactly who I was sitting next to. And the eyeball scene. When that happened and the pus comes out, this kid.
Wasn't I there?
Oh, were you there?
Yeah.
Wait, so you remember that?
Yeah.
Oh, you just said you didn't remember it.
No, I didn't remember it happening.
Oh, okay.
And actually, I talked to our friend Buzz Breadsticks, and he didn't remember it either. And I jogged his memory after you told me, and he was laughing so hard. He was like, "Oh my God, I forgot all about that."
So, like, a good movie theater experience makes everything, like, makes the difference in the world. Like, I can see a great movie and I have, like, a bunch of teenagers behind me talking, and I'll be like, this movie sucks. I'll never watch this again. But, like, you go and, like, the whole, like, the vibe is positive. The whole theater's into it, like, oohing and eyeing. It's a great experience. And that's how Hostel was for us.
Yeah.
And when that scene happened, the kid who sat next to me let out the most audible yell. I mean, he's a grown-ass dude. He's just like, ah! Like, that's the, like, I was just sold on that movie. Like, this is fucking awesome. That was exactly what it was meant to do. And it was perfect.
Yeah, no, it was true. That was a buddy of ours. And it really makes it. That kind of stuff makes it. Actually, there was a movie. Oh, my God. What's the name of that movie? It's like a black comedy. Oh, my gosh. It wasn't Pootie Tang. Oh, my God. It's called like
Black Dynamite?
No, because it was in theaters when we were in high school. It was like black. It was like a knockoff on Blaxploitation, and it was like a black hero.
Undercover Lover?
Undercover Lover.
The Tim Meadows movie?
Yes. Wait, was it Tim Meadows?
Yeah, right?
Hang on.
Saturday Night Live. It was a Saturday Night Live movie, wasn't it?
No.
Oh, no. Undercover Brother.
Undercover Brother.
Yeah.
That's it. And it wasn't Tim Meadows, I don't think. No, it's Eddie Griffin.
Oh.
Anyway, all right. So we saw Undercover Brother in theaters, and I remember my Buzz Breadsticks actually were watching the trailer. First of all, the theater was it was us and like 2 or 3 other white kids. The theater, it wasn't packed by any means, but the only other people there were black people. And one of our buddies during the trailers yells, "I gots to see that." And I remember freezing like, and everyone in the theater died laughing. And it just set this tone for the rest of the movie where everyone was just like, it was so awesome. Like everyone in that theater was just happy together. And everyone was dying laughing at Undercover Brother the entire time, like out loud, audibly laughing. No one was holding it in.
A good theater experience makes all the difference in the world.
And it changed.
Remember it.
Honestly, I've never seen that movie since, and I'd probably say I love that movie. Like, if you asked me about that, I'd be like, yeah, I love that movie. Just because that experience.
Yeah.
It was so great.
By the way, for anyone who cares, this is so un-horror related, but Ladies Man was the movie I was thinking of with Tim Meadows.
Yes. Well, I know. That's I figured. Because I don't think Tim Meadows has an extensive movie starring role.
He was great in Mean Girls.
Okay. He was great in I was about to make a really obscure joke that made no sense. I was about to say he was great in The Killing.
The TV show?
Yeah.
Never saw it.
Because the teacher vaguely resembles him. It's a terrible joke. I'll probably edit it out.
Hostel.
Hostel. All right. Are we sure we don't want to talk about Undercover Brother anymore? Hostel. So you remember it vividly. I remembered it vaguely. I fucking loved this movie.
I did too.
Dude,
I did too.
Rewatching this, I was like, holy crap. This movie's great. It's not even good. It's great. And it sucked because I'm sitting there watching it and I was like, this completely ruins every point I was going to make about Eli Roth maybe not having made it.
Yeah. It like you said, I had a better memory of it, but I still lumped it in with like soft 3, 4, 5, 6, just like gore porn for the sake of being gore porn. But it wasn't. It was like
not even close.
Dude, it had a pretty good story, a pretty damn good story.
Great story.
And it achieved everything that it set out to do. And you could tell, like at that point, you could just tell Eli Roth is a fan of the genre because it was just like perfectly executed.
Yeah. There were some points I wanted to make about this movie that I found kind of interesting. We kind of talked about this briefly. So in Hostel, you meet these 3 kids backpacking through Europe, which sounds like my nightmare because I'm xenophobic. But these 3 kids backpacking through Europe, they are acting in these opening scenes when you meet them, they are acting like the biggest group of assholes.
Yeah, total dicks.
Walking Earth. They call everyone up again in typical Eli Roth fashion. They are being insanely crude and insensitive, and they are walking around calling foreign people faggots. The first 15 minutes of the movie, they're just calling foreign people faggots and getting into fights and telling them how much their own country sucks, despite them visiting it.
Yeah.
So
total asshole move.
Yeah, a complete asshole move. And they're like outside screaming. And when the neighbors are like, by the way, when people walk by my house at night just talking, I get furious.
It's infuriating. Like 5 minutes before you showed up, there's a bunch of motorcycles outside and people yelling over their motorcycles revving. Instead of not revving their engines, they were revving their engines and still trying to hold a conversation. So they were yelling. I just want to open my door and be like, shut the fuck up. And it's raining out. Like, there's no need for this to be happening. But yes, to make your point, it's infuriating.
So one of the things everyone should know before we review this movie is me and Joe are probably insanely similar in the sense that I don't like being away from my house. I don't like not sleeping in my bed. And I hate general fun. Generally, I'd rather be sitting alone.
Not doing things is so much better than doing things.
100%. I don't want to have fun. I don't want to adventure. I don't want to do anything for the most part. So Hostel is 100% unrelatable to us. There's people I know that would probably like be terrified of this because I know people that have done that.
Backpacking Europe and staying in hostels.
And like, I'd rather die.
That's more of a horror story to me.
Oh yeah.
Than what's happening in Hostel.
If no murders happened, I'd be like, this is terrifying. If they just had an enjoyable trip, I'd be like, this is a nightmare.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's just a little bit of where our head's at when we talk about this. So anyway, so these guys are walking around acting like complete dickheads. But one of the things I thought about, I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, these are the stars of the movie, and clearly in the first 15 minutes, you know they're technically the protagonists, but they're insane dickheads. And protagonists are supposed to be likable because when they die, you're supposed to care. And 15 minutes in, I was like, I would kill these guys. I would torture these guys if I could. And I was just thinking, did this have something to do with 9/11? After 9/11, we were on that super like freedom fries and fuck France and fuck all these foreign countries. I wonder if this was more relatable than guys that were like, I respect other countries and cultures.
Yeah, it's a very interesting point because that's where we are now with the respect part. Like, we should all like everyone's over that, but it was very close to 9. Like I'm not saying that is why he did it, but
I mean it was released in 2005 and it was probably filmed in 2004 and
9/11
like I said,
still pretty fresh.
These guys, and Eli Roth is again pretty crude, or not crude. I shouldn't say it. He's trying to be realistic in his conversations. So he lets these people say things like faggot and retard and all that stuff.
Which, to be honest, is how many people talk.
Right. And so maybe that's what he was going with it. But then I have another philosophy that I came up with after watching them all be tortured and murdered in the end, which is I think he had to make them a little unlikable. Because imagine if those guys were all just really genuinely nice people.
That was my counterpoint that I was just going to make to you, is that I think he did that to make us, like, kind of ease us into the torture scenes.
Because, like, imagine if it was, like, the nicest humanitarians in the world and they were just tortured beyond belief. You'd be like, this is horrifying. Even worse.
Fucking Christian missionaries rebuilding houses and they're just getting tortured. Yeah.
Yeah. They're getting their eyeballs ripped out and for no reason.
I think that's probably more likely.
That's what I think too. And I didn't realize that until later on. And I was
I get it now. I think the post 9/11 thing is a good point, and that's probably why studios probably didn't be like, you have to tone this down a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So this movie, I mean, it affected me. I don't want to say I was scared, but it was kind of chilling.
It definitely is. Excuse me. Like I said again, it definitely is. Being away from home, being away from your comfort, like you just talked about, and then you know how helpless. Like I felt helpless that whole movie for the characters.
Yeah, I guess that's the word. Yeah, super helpless. They couldn't do anything.
Like even if I'm the next town over, like I'm still feel like I'm pretty far. If that was happening to me 2 towns away from where my house is, I would still feel pretty helpless. Like I can't immediately get home. I can't escape. And you're across the fucking world. There's no way out.
And yeah, I know. And the torture was just so painful. Like you could not, if you didn't feel sympathy for these guys, regardless of what they did, yeah, I don't know if you have a soul, because it was just like, it was brutal. And the scary part is like, not that this happens, like people are kidnapped and sold. But I mean, I guess that happens. But
that totally happens.
But like, there are these horrifying murders that you see and tortures that you see, and it's just like to watch that. It's just awful.
And people are paying to do it.
Yeah,
like they're getting their rocks off.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, oh yeah, it was crazy. And I think the other part about it was it really seemed like you might just see these 3 guys dead. Like for a while. I mean, I'd seen it, but I remember when I was rewatching it jogged my memory. Like every scene was like, oh yeah, this scene.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this scene. I remember feeling like, is anyone going to survive? Because I don't see a way this happens. I don't see a way where this ends okay. Everyone's going to die. And the moral of the story is
stay home.
Stay home. But when the payoff does happen at the end, when he does get out, it is so good.
Yeah, yes.
It was so satisfying. And it wasn't, I feel like it could have been a lot more satisfying, but he didn't go over the top. He didn't have this kid kill everybody that he saw. He just escaped.
Yeah.
And barely. And that was so effective.
It was great.
Oh, it was so amazing. Yeah, genuinely an amazing horror movie. And come on, the revenge kill at the end.
Super satisfying.
That was the most satisfying part. I remember watching, okay, so he runs over a couple characters, and I was like, that was awesome. That felt good. Like my heart felt better after seeing that. But that bathroom scene in the final scenes, I don't want to, I mean, I guess we could give it away, but why not? Just watch it again. It's super fun.
Yeah. Actually, I kind of want to watch it right after this show again.
It was so good.
It was real fun.
It was such a fun watch. And honestly, a top horror movie, in my opinion. So that erased everything. And on top of that, how, what's the word? Notorious it is. I mean, it kind of adds to the legacy that people think it's just gore porn.
Yeah.
I think that adds to it. Like, part of horror is this counterculture vibe. And horror shouldn't be liked by your dad. You know what I mean? Like, horror shouldn't be, well, your dad probably hates.
my dad would not like it.
Yeah. But like in general, you're like, if your dad's watching it, it's just not the way it should be. You know what I mean? Like, it should be like, it should feel like you shouldn't be watching it.
Yeah. 100%.
And that's what this movie does and did and will continue to do. And this will be, I think, a movie that our kids watch and are like, this is going to be like,
this is like the Cannibal Ferox of our time.
Right. Yeah. Make Them Die Slowly or Cannibal Holocaust. They'll be like, I got Hostel. Like, my dad watched
little kids
this.
are going to be sneaking this in.
Yeah. My dad,
sure.
I found this in my dad's collection. Like, this is fucked up.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
It's going to be awesome. And I'm okay with that. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. And then we're going to come back. We're going to talk about Hostel Part 3. And we're going to talk about... no, not Hostel Part 3, which is available on Netflix. Plug. Not that I get anything out of that. And we're going to talk about the movies he produced. And just talk a little bit more about Eli Roth.
About Rock of Ages.
We are not talking about Rock of Ages. Maybe. No, we aren't. No, yeah, we aren't. Okay. Stay tuned.
Wait, hold on a second.
God.
this holiday season, prepare to have the stuffing scared out of you. Thanksgiving. In the town of Plymouth, Massachusetts, the fourth Thursday in November is the most celebrated day of the year. The table is set. The festivities have begun. One uninvited guest has arrived, and this year, there will be no leftovers. Thanksgiving. White meat, dark meat, all will be carved. Thanksgiving.
Come on, Judy, how about it?
Happy Thanksgiving, baby.
Thanksgiving.
Cool it, Judy. You're safe. Bobby's here. It's blood. Son of a bitch.
Arrive hungry.
Happy Thanksgiving, Grandma.
Leave stuffed. From director Eli Roth. Thanksgiving. You'll come home for the holidays in a body bag. This February.
Get more out of life. Go out to a movie.
All right, guys, we are back. Thanks for sticking around. Was that really loud? Because I was super close
was
to my microphone.
really loud.
All right, guys, I'm still screaming. What is the matter with me? All right, guys, we're back. Thanks for sticking around. Hope you enjoyed the whatever trailer I've chosen this week. I really need to start keeping track because I'm really afraid I'm going to start duplicating my efforts. Because sometimes I'll just listen to them and be like, "Oh, I love this," and then I'm like, "Oh shit."
Why don't you just play the Thanksgiving trailer?
Thanks, everybody, for sticking around. How'd you like that Thanksgiving trailer? Real classic. I probably will use that because I hate finding them. It's such a pain. It probably seems so easy when people listen to it. They're probably like, oh, it's so easy. And it's just like, no. I have to sit there for 3 minutes and listen to it. And I have to sit there in 3 minutes and listen to it again. And these are the 3-minute B movie ones that are just so painful to re-listen to. Just like, in a small desert where life is cheap. I forget which one. Oh, that was the snuff movie. This movie was filmed in Brazil where life is cheap. What the fuck? I want to oh man, I would do anything to go back in time and just see how people reacted to horror movies and stuff. Like, wouldn't you? Like I said, I think I said this one time. I wish I saw people. This is so off topic, but I wish I saw people coming out from when they saw The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
They must have lost their fucking minds.
Like, that movie is when I couldn't handle how people are still doing that, literally the same format of that movie.
Yeah.
The twist ending, like, everyone can go fuck themselves. Like, that guy invented that. That movie holds up.
It does.
It's fucking silent.
And not too many years before, there were people diving at the movie theaters when the first movie ever just showed that like moving train.
Oh yeah.
And people thought it was coming at them. And then like a couple of years later, they're watching this fucking shit. Like, they must have lost their minds.
They had to have. Maybe, oh my God. We should like look up what kind of crimes happened in that time period, because maybe people just started murdering, losing their shit and just killing everyone they thought.
Because of that movie?
Yeah, they thought were sleepwalkers or whatever. So insane. So we're back. We're talking about we're not talking about we're not talking about Eli Roth. We're talking about a ton of other shit. But we should be talking about Eli Roth. So we left off Hostel. So great, so awesome. Follows it up 2 years later, and he makes Hostel Part 2.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Not
good.
as good.
Not as good. Not nearly as good. I started it. We start out in Hostel 2. It picks up right where the first one left off, which shocked me. Because for me, you think Hostel is kind of like a blow-off, especially when it's Hostel 2. Like, Hostel was really good, but you just figure once they start doing the sequels, you're like, all right, this is just going to be a new group of kids, and blah, 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 which it ends up being. But it doesn't start out that way.
No.
We get the main character again. I'm watching this beginning. I'm thinking, this is great. Like, I'm super pumped about this. I'm super excited. This is a completely different track than where we left off. The kid's having nightmares still. He's taking medication. He's sitting in his house. His girlfriend's there. He goes downstairs. She comes down, and there is a headless corpse in her kitchen. Fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Cut to Italy. Lord knows how he got there so fast. Cut to Italy, and you just see this motorcycle guy. It kind of does like a shot from the back where you see his little, I don't know what you call it, like a baggage carrier for a motorcycle, and you hear the head rolling around in it, and you're like, fuck. Like, I was excited at that point. Like, I'm like, this is exciting.
You know what? I thought the same thing. Started off great, and actually the first half I thoroughly enjoyed.
Okay, I
shouldn't say thoroughly enjoyed. I didn't hate.
Okay, so yeah, I guess the first half, I would agree. I think where we start losing, where to me it starts just completely going off the rails, is when we start seeing the bidding process.
Yeah.
First of all, that website was just so fake. That was almost like Clarissa Explains It All making video games on her computer. Like, come on. You guys couldn't have come up with just like a fake website that looked like a real website. I mean, this is 2007. Websites weren't shitty back then, but it was literally just a giant picture of the girl and people just like hitting numbers.
Yeah.
Like, yes.
Yeah.
And they're all doing it like while at work and they're like on their phones or golfing.
Yeah. And it's 2007. I mean,
yeah,
it's insane.
Yeah. It's pretty ridiculous. And like, that's so not safe. Like, that would never be done on the internet on an open website.
No.
Like, yep, just bid it online wirelessly.
No way the FBI will catch this.
No way. So that kind of just drove me nuts. And I think it drove me nuts throughout the rest of the movie. So at first I was like, okay, so we're going to kind of see, and that was the point of this movie, clearly. We are seeing the questions you had in the first movie, which made the first movie so good. Like, how do these people, why are they a part of this club? Like, how do you even get into a fucking club like this?
Yeah.
Like, all these questions that should have been left unanswered were answered in this one. And it wasn't done properly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, like, after watching it, I'm like, oh, wait, guess what? I don't care.
I didn't even think about that, and I didn't realize I felt that way until you just said that. Like,
Right.
that is what was part of the charm for the first one, because you're like,
You
why
didn't
is this
know.
happening?
It was just shady.
How do these people do this?
I mean, one of the scariest things is cults and secret societies and thinking that there are groups of rich dudes that are like, I just need to fucking torture someone and murder someone because I have no soul.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
It is. And like right now, this day, there's like this huge thing that's going on in the UK where like all the top ranking officials have like this,
Yeah.
their hand in some like child sex ring or whatever.
Yeah, and
it's terrifying.
It's terrifying. And like they're taking planes to visit each other and stuff. I saw that. And now they're finally seeing these flight logs and are like, oh, this is fucked.
Yeah.
And to think that exists is crazy, but to see them try and explain it in just these kind of corny ways with a corny website where
it's better left.
people are bidding, like,
to your
I would
imagination.
rather, like, even, like, yeah, it should be left to the imagination. I don't want to play armchair quarterback here, but, like, why not just, like, it would have been so much creepier if they, like, got a letter and were like, meet at this location if you want to bid
Yeah.
on meat or something. You know what I mean? But they all know the code. Like
Make it like The Wire.
Right,
You just
like-
text pictures of like sundials. and
right,
stuff.
yeah, like something like that. Not a website with pictures of people that have been kidnapped and reported missing.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. And it also just seemed like they made it too big of a society. Like it was kind of cool thinking it was like this really small elite, but it was like
Yeah.
doctors, everyone was in on it, and it was just like, come on, like the whole town's in on it. Are you fucking serious? Like,
Right.
you're telling?
It
Stop
is way better when it's just like the elite
Yeah.
scumbags.
Overall, though, I wasn't thrilled with it until the fucking end.
Wait. The very end?
No.
Okay.
No, not the soccer scene.
Okay, because I was not thrilled with that.
No, that was so pointless and so Cabin in the Woods. I was furious.
Cabin Fever.
Cabin Fever. Yeah. Cabin in the Woods is great. It was so Cabin Fever. It was fucking
Because
stupid.
literally the only thing I remember my first viewing when it first came out is I liked the ending,
Yeah.
and then that happened, and me being like,
I was an idiot.
that's so stupid. And I don't like it. Like normally I'm like, that's so stupid. That was awesome. I was like,
Yeah.
that's just so stupid.
Yeah. The relationships in these movies, the main characters are obviously the female lead and these two guys from the United States who have decided to come over here and kill two girls. And one of them is gung-ho about it, all in, wants to kill him and is calling the other guy a pussy. Well, he keeps going, we can back out if you want. And then he'll be like, I don't know. The other guy will be like, I don't know. And then he'll be like, we're not backing out. It's like, why would you offer that? He did that like 4 times in the movie. He'd be like, listen, man, we don't have to do this. And he'd be like, I don't know. No, well, we talk about this all the time. We were doing this. And you're like, whoa, okay, make up your mind, buddy. It was so ridiculous. And so anyway, so you have these two guys. These two, clearly one guy's like, I don't want to kill somebody. That's what he was giving off the vibe. And the other guy, gung-ho. And at the end, it reverses, and it was so good. I loved it. I thought that was awesome.
I did too.
The
Yeah.
gung-ho guy loses his cool when he accidentally saws off half her face. That scene was so great. Honestly, if any normal person did that, that's what they would do.
Yeah.
Like if you were put in that situation, not that, I mean, to get to that situation is just insane, but let's say you were there and you were like, okay, I'm going to kill this person. Most people would be in this situation where you don't know how to kill someone and you accidentally rip off half their scalp. and you're just like, I gotta go. Fuck, you put a bag over their head and leave. I'm fucking out. I'm fucking out of this.
That is how most people would act.
Yeah. And I loved that. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I also love that, and I love, like you just said, how gung ho, because that's exactly how like you or I would act. Like,
Yeah.
not that we would ever do that.
Yeah,
but,
right.
But like, I could just see someone be like, I could totally kill this person, and then when you do it, you're just like, oh my god.
Yeah, you rip out their hair and they start crying and you're like, fuck this. Blood is everywhere. No, I'm out. I'm fucking out. This is not what I expected.
Yeah.
So I thought that was great. And then we see the other guy, the wimp, light switch turns on, and he is one of the scariest fucking psychos I've ever
Yeah,
seen.
it was great. That was
Imagining it's his wife, which they had set up earlier in the movie, so I'd been thinking about that the whole time. It was not a very hidden
yeah.
thing. In the very beginning of the movie, he's like, she looks just like her.
Yeah.
And then the whole movie, I'm like, what is he talking about? I figured it was his wife, but then the payoff's at the end. But you're like, okay, yeah, I've been thinking about this the whole movie. It's not a surprise. But this psycho is now gung ho, and he is going to kill the lead, and he's determined to do it. Now, the ending that I did like was her flipping the script. I thought that was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. But again, it kind of goes back against all the mythos of Hostel. Because, yeah, they're paying an insane amount of money to do this. But it wasn't just about money. Like, they wanted people that enjoyed killing. And
Yeah.
then
the
this
rocks
girl's
off.
just like, I'll give you all the money you want. Which I guess might work to an extent. But it just the way they built it up in this movie just made it seem like that wasn't the case. It wasn't about just money and
Right.
stuff like that. But I did love it. I love She gets out. So, oh my God. And she cuts off his dick. Spoiler alert, but I don't give a shit. That dick scene was excruciating.
We've been watching a lot of movies with dick scenes.
Well, hey, listen, it's all good. Keep them coming. Yeah, that the cutting off the dick though was absolutely nuts. That was crazy, and feeding it to the dog.
Yeah,
that was so crazy. But that I thought that ending was fantastic. But for the rest of the movie, I was just kind of like, it just wasn't a big enough payoff.
So yeah, talking with you right now about the end, I think I like it even more.
Yeah,
but you're right. There's just something missing that the first one had and this one didn't.
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, they just added all that extra stuff in it. You didn't have to mess with the mythos of it. You didn't have to tell us about how it all gets done or anything like that. But also, the payoff didn't really pay off to anything. Like, it was great to watch for, I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
It just, like, where the first one, that payoff was this guy gets out. Like, your heart is just, like, sunk for this kid. And he finally fucking makes it out.
Yeah.
And that's the payoff and the revenge. And this one kind of wasn't, because she killed the one guy that was about to kill her. But that was it.
Yeah.
You know, a couple guards, I think, but
right.
I don't know.
Not as satisfying.
No. You know what? One thing we should talk about before we jump into his other stuff. Let's just talk about the brutal scenes in Hostel 1 and 2. I wish I could do this like the Oscars in memoriam video, like with delicate music and talking about these. So let's start at 1. The drill through the thigh at the beginning. Yep. I can't even... That was horrifying. I can't even imagine the pain of drilling through your thigh muscle.
Dude. Do you know like how slow, like, I don't know how to explain this. Like, obviously it would go quickly when you push it, but like you have to push so hard.
I've drilled a wall and it's a pain in the ass. Like,
you have to push so hard and oh God.
And it's like wiggling.
Yeah.
And, oh God, it's awful. Cutting the Achilles.
That's always brutal. Like in Pet Cemetery, when that kid slashes Herman Munster's fucking Achilles.
I think that one's like one of the worst scenes. Like the way they showed it.
Ugh, that always makes me feel it.
Yeah. The 3-pronged garden rake looking thing, hacking the fucking guy with it. Yep. Oh my God.
Yep.
The sawed off fingers. Just the fingers go flying off his 2 fingers. Chainsawing the legs off the torturer in the first one. The eye scene, of course.
The eye scene's the best.
Cutting off that guy's pinky and ring finger. Brutal. So brutal. It was. The effects were great, too.
They really were.
There was no scene where it was like, oh, that clay finger trick. The old clay finger trick. Some scenes in the second one that I thought were nuts. The hanging bloodbath.
Yes.
Wild.
Yes.
How do you even think of that?
That was great.
Who the hell was thinking of somebody should be monitoring the guy that thought about that. That typed that on paper and was like, he hangs her upside down and just starts slashing her.
Yeah.
The haircut and the saw.
Brutal.
The dog killing. When the dogs kill the one of the guys, the main characters. That was insane.
Yeah.
And then the dick, obviously, but one of the scenes that kind of goes underrated, when she sticks the needle in his fucking ear before she cuts off his dick. I think he went with Argento's rule.
Like you could feel every single one of those.
Yeah. Like, you know what a needle feels like. So imagine somebody sticking it through your fucking eardrum.
Dude, I don't even like fucking Q-tips. Like sticking a needle in my ear. Like,
dude, I hate Q-tips. So, overall, though, how do you feel about those 3 movies that he directed?
Well, I liked Cabin Fever.
So I guess you're like, you think of him pretty highly.
I do.
I think Hostel was amazing. Hostel Part 2, I'd say it was good though. I'm saying I don't like it,
but compared to the first one.
But overall, yeah, exactly. How do you follow that up? But overall, I think it's a good movie.
I have no problem with it.
Maybe that's kind of why we switched while we were talking about it, was because we were like, oh wait, that's a fun movie.
Yeah.
But when you watch Hostel 1 and you're like, That was amazing. Can't wait to watch Hospital 2 again and relive that.
Yeah.
Cabin Fever, though, just didn't do it for me. So
how hyped are you for Green Inferno now?
Well,
Or are you?
So I've been hyped for Green Inferno. We talked about it on our upcoming movie podcast. I am very excited, but I've heard mixed reviews about it. Doesn't mean shit, though.
From that theater of 15 people?
Right.
Yeah.
And probably a lot of snobs.
It has to be, like, to get to that one viewing.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I'm pumped. I just don't want to get let down.
Yeah.
But see, now here's where we're kind of going in a different direction, right? And I think this might be the turn in Eli Roth's career.
The Super Bowl ring?
This is I don't think this will be. I think Knock Knock will be.
Really?
Here's my thought. So you see, not only are these his freshman and sophomore and junior projects, we're approaching his senior and then his professional, right? So I think Green Inferno is going to be good, but what you're seeing in a difference is, so Cabin Fever, you're seeing literally kids, retard, faggot, Hostel, faggot. Hostel 2, not a lot of that. A lot of storytelling. Not a lot of comedy either. There's some humor in the kills, which is weird to say. Yeah, the fucking end. I guess he's just like, I have to have this scene. I need the laugh somewhere in this movie. So yeah, it's weird. But I think Green Inferno, knowing the story, you're talking about missionaries going to a distant tribal area. And it's basically it's Cannibal Holocaust, right?
Yeah,
except not filmmakers. It's missionaries. What are they going to do with missionaries? He's not going to be like missionaries that say retard and have sex constantly and are just dickheads.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be I think he's going to do, like we talked about in Hostel, where we were like, maybe he made them unlikable, so the torture's good. I think he's going a different direction. I think these are going to be very likable people that are fucking murdered brutally.
Well, if they're missionaries, they're probably trying to change this tribe.
That's true.
It's kind of a dick move.
You could see that. So that might be his move. But regardless, I don't think you're going to see people saying the N-word or kids doing karate kicks or kids playing soccer with a decapitated head.
Right.
Like it's everyday life.
Yeah.
So that's where I think it's going to change. And Knock Knock, I think, is going to take it even further because I think it's going to be real dark and real serious. It sounds like Knock Knock, for those of you that don't know, just check out the trailer. It stars Keanu Reeves. He's in his house. 2 girls pull up to his house. I think they are having car trouble, which sounds very cliche, but they're having car trouble and they need a place to stay. And basically, shit goes south. They clearly have some sort of sex party based on the trailer, but shit goes south after that. That's a really deranged thought, and it really relates to a lot of the stuff you see in the news today. And I think it's going to be real heavy.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that might be the crowning achievement right there. I think Green Inferno could be too, but I think, and maybe in 2 different levels. Maybe Green Inferno is for the horror fans, and while Knock Knock is horror, it might be a little more mainstream than Green Inferno.
Sure.
But I think they're both going to cement his legacy.
I'm excited for both.
Yeah. So let's talk about his produced movies real quickly here.
What do you actually do as a producer?
I have no idea. I used to think it was like he just did money, but then I saw him. I just literally just minutes ago, I saw a picture of him. He produced The Man with the Iron Fist.
Yeah, the RZA movie. Yeah. Saw it in theaters.
And he is on set, like giving RZA guidance. Sounds like a fucking director to me.
See, that's the thing. I also thought it was just somebody that gave money or kind of like oversaw the project, made sure everything was in place.
But I think he's a hands-on producer. I think he likes to see the project.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think it shows a bit in some of them and some not so much. So I didn't watch 2001 Maniacs because I couldn't find a good copy. Last Exorcism 2, I started, and I fucking never been so uninterested in a movie in my life, honestly. Honestly, dude. I could go into it more, but okay. So let's just start with, we'll go through these real fast. Last Exorcism, found footage.
Actually, rather enjoyable.
Real enjoyable, especially the beginning. It's about this priest who's doing exorcisms, but openly talking about showing a documentary crew like it's all fake.
Yeah.
What I do is a sham, but it makes people feel better. I was like, this is genius. This is so good. It kind of goes off the rails and does what every found footage movie I've seen do.
Spend a lot of money on CGI.
Spend a lot of money on CGI in the last
For
5
like
minutes.
a 5-minute payoff?
Yeah. And I just don't understand why they do that. And they all do the same thing where you start a found footage movie and you're like, this is really great. I love that they're making it look like a real documentary and there's names and little title cues and like in, what was that one the one we did for the best of Taking of Deborah Logan.
Yeah.
Like they had medical footage at the beginning because they thought she was an Alzheimer's patient. I was like, this is genius. And then all of a sudden, halfway through, it's almost like they're like, fuck it. Just show the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
They don't do that anymore. Like these movies should be ending like it was a real documentary produced because that's how you started the movie. It was produced. There was title cues,
Right.
names and interviews. And why don't they do that?
I know.
I don't understand that at all. But so that was my complaint there. And I mean, it's a typical found footage movie, I'd say.
Yeah.
After the beginning, which was great, as most of them do. And then
I enjoyed it until the end.
Yeah, agreed. I started watching part 2. They ditched found footage. And they just pick up with this girl, the girl from it. And I was just like, I don't care about this character. I don't care what happens to her. This is just bonkers.
Yeah.
I just turned it off straight up. The Sacrament, which we reviewed.
Loved it.
So good.
Loved it.
I don't know if I knew that he was a part of that.
Had
when
no
we did
clue.
it. One of my favorites, and probably one of the few found footages that kind of did it correctly. They did it in that Vice
The
style,
Vice side, yep.
and it was really great.
Yep.
Very different, but overall good. And I won't spoil anything about that. You guys should just check that out immediately. It was so good. Let's talk about this one for a little bit, though. Clown.
Clown, I had known nothing about until Sean told me that he watched it, and I can't really put my finger on it. The entire movie, I almost wanted to dislike it. I that sounds so stupid to say. Like after every scene, I was like, I think I want to dislike this, but I just am finding myself enjoying this, and I've never really felt that way. Like, why am I rooting against this so badly? But it won me over. I enjoyed it.
Dude, it was the same. I feel like most people felt that way. I mean, unless you're really open-minded out there, which God bless you. But I'm watching it and I'm like, I refuse to like a movie about a guy. By the way, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings because apparently I spoiled this for somebody on Tumblr. But
That guy's a piece of shit. That name that he called you, he's a piece of shit.
yeah. So anyway, so I don't want to spoil it, but so if you don't want to hear about Clown, fast forward. But the guy puts on a clown suit, literally. Oh, now that you've seen this, we can talk about this because this guy was so upset because I said, I don't know. I responded publicly on Tumblr to somebody who said, should I subcategorize this as a monster movie or a possession movie? I said, could kind of go either way. I'd lean towards monster, but I get the possession thing. Makes sense. And this person called me a racial slur, which makes no sense. And then said that I had spoiled the movie because I said it was a possession, that I had ruined it because it's a possession movie. I said it wasn't a possession movie. My argument was that it was a monster movie.
I snorted this fucking guy.
And literally, dude, like, how early in the movie does it happen? Like,
It's literally
almost
like the
instantly?
first 2 minutes.
Like, literally. And that was one of the things I actually liked about the movie was
Spoils so little.
yeah, I mean, it literally happens right away.
Yeah.
And it was actually it was one of the things I liked. It moved really fast. Like, you just they just dove right into this movie. The guy puts on a clown suit and it takes over his body. It's symbiotic in a way, right?
Yeah, it's like Venom.
Yeah. So it takes over his body. But so like we said, it happens in the first 2 minutes. But then it just hits a lull. That was the only thing I didn't like. Like 30 minutes into the movie, I was like, when is this movie? This movie's going to end in like 15 minutes. Like this guy's already on a rampage.
Yeah.
And it dragged on a bit in the middle, but it wasn't bad in any way. It just, I think it could have been paced better.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Like I said, there was something about it that I wanted to really just not
But you
like. But
couldn't.
in the end, when it was all said and done, I was like, that was pretty interesting and good.
I've talked about this movie a lot on Tumblr. And I haven't really seen anyone say they hate it, but I think what it does that people like, it tried something new. How can you hate something new? You've never seen another one before. Like, can you name a movie like this?
Nah.
It was weird. And not just like, sure, you could probably name a clown movie, but watch this. It's so different. It's so different. It's its own mythos. No one's ever done anything like this. Like, and again, hopefully if you're listening to this, you've seen it. I'm going to talk about it. When he shoots himself in the head.
And the fucking rainbow colors come out.
Rainbow colored blood splatter.
Yeah.
I was like, that is so fucking amazing. I can't even handle this. Just the whole thing. I really enjoyed it. It was shocking how much I enjoyed it. At the end, I was just like,
yeah, I would watch it again.
The same thing. What you're saying is what I did. Like, I was like, oh, well, that was corny. Like in my head, I'm thinking that, and I'm like trying to think about how I'll explain why it's corny, and then I'm like, no, it's not. It's fine. It's really good. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, it might have been corny, but it was amazing. He shoots himself in the head, and there's rainbow blood splatter all over the wall. And by the way, guys, that's really not a spoiler because he literally wakes up a couple minutes later. That's one of the gifs I saw on Tumblr, and I was like, fuck, the movie's ruined. And I didn't realize it happened in the first 30 minutes.
Yeah. So fast.
Really cool, though. I enjoyed it. And I suggest everyone watch that if you haven't. Hopefully we didn't spoil too much for you. I don't think we really did because, I mean, this is long and the ending is nowhere near what you're even imagining. If you're thinking we did anything to ruin the ending, we didn't. Just check it out. It was a blast to watch and definitely a good pick by Eli Roth. We're running out of time here.
So to wrap up, what's the final verdict on Eli Roth?
Ooh, I don't have an answer. I think he's great.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yep.
I think he's great.
So Eli Roth is
such
the
a
kind of
fan.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy that like I just want to invite over with a 6-pack and be like, let's do nothing but watch horror movies all night. Have him recommend me some fucking ridiculous Italian films from the 70s.
Let's do what we're doing right now and just talk.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I wish he was here right now. He'd probably say the same shit. He'd probably be like,
Eli Roth should be our Valentine for the next year's Valentine episode.
He might be. I think we might have to include men, and he's a top pick. He's a very top pick. I'm not going to be sexist this year. Not just women, guys.
But yeah, he's definitely a fan. I think he's great. I like what he's doing. I think he's having fun while doing it. And I had fun while watching it.
I think he definitely is having fun. And what I think is strange is that he took so much time off in between Hostel Part 2 and now Green Inferno. It was 7 years.
7 fucking years, 2007. Jesus Christ.
So, like, that's a long time to be kind of out of the spotlight. I mean, he was acting and doing things like that, but yeah, I think he's great. Producer, director. He's definitely got an eye for the producing thing. I might not have liked The Last Exorcism Part 2, but I'm sure those Exorcism movies kill at the box office. The first one wasn't bad. Why wouldn't you just produce the second one regardless? Hey, everyone's got to eat, right?
Yep.
And I've heard good things about 2001 Maniacs. And I actually, breaking news, we're going to be doing 2000 Maniacs.
Yeah?
In June. June 9th.
Is there a significance to that?
No.
Wait, so you just planned we're going to do 2000 Maniacs June 9th?
We are booked through July.
Okay.
This is news to Joe.
All right.
Guys, thank you so much. I hope the show was enjoyable. I had a blast talking about it. Eli Roth is. I knew this was going to be fun to talk about. He's just a cool guy to talk about. I really enjoyed all the stuff we watched.
Same.
So check out all of his movies again. I highly recommend it. If you think you don't like one of them, you're probably wrong.
Your opinion is shit.
Oh, well, actually, I was about to say, if you think you hate all of them, go fuck yourself and rewatch them. And if you still hate them, then you're a piece of shit. Oh, just kidding. Maybe. Guys, thank you for listening. It means everything to us. We'd like to thank Harley Poe for allowing us to use the song Gorehound off the album Pagan Holiday. You can check them out at harleypoe.com and facebook.com/harleypoe. You can also find his links on our website. You can find me on Twitter at I Hate Horror Show.
Find me at JoeV421.
We're on Tumblr, ihatehorror.tumblr.com, our website, ihatehorror.com, and of course, Facebook, facebook.com/ihatehorror. Join us on Facebook. It's really fun. I prefer talking to people that way because Tumblr makes no sense and people are terrible. Biggest thing you guys can do is just download. We appreciate you guys downloading it. But if you have a time or a free second, rate, review, subscribe to us on iTunes or Stitcher. That makes the big difference for us. And if you want to go a step further, we have an Amazon link on our website. Just click that and do your Amazon shopping. It doesn't change the prices, same website. We just get a little kickback for the servers. Hopefully we'll have some t-shirts soon, though, to make it more fun to shop with us.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Adios.